Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 759. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Today, we continue our exploration of critical thinking. This week, we search for a consumable definition. If you can't hold a definition in your mind, it's hard to contemplate the impact and necessity of rigorous thinking. Keis Kostaqi also is on this cast, and she brings the first installment of her Scrum Master Facilitation and Transformation column to the podcast. In this installment, Keis discusses the impact of hierarchy on the role and behavior of Scrum Masters. Defining Critical Thinking by Thomas M. Cagley Jr., Megan E. Cagley. Creating environments for constant collaboration is considered canon in agile transformations. Many organizations create open office space for agile teams. The classic Scrum team room, where the whole team sits and works together, and constant mobbing are two examples of creating an environment of continuous collaboration. Research on this topic is far less cut and dry. Just accepting unresearched and tested ideas is dangerous. More rigorous thinking is a better approach. Critical thinking is a core skill for humanity. A core skill for consultants. This type of thinking is important because it provides a path to objectively analyze, evaluate, and interpret information or situations in a logical and systematic manner. We live in an informationally dense world that is both paradoxically of better and worse quality. Learning how to sort the wheat from the chaff has become a survival skill. Critical thinking is unfortunately a skill that is far rarer than it should be. Part of the issue may be that the concept feels esoteric and academic. For example, a definition presented by Michael Scriven and Richard Paul at the 8th Annual International Conference on Critical Thinking and Education Reform, 1987, quote, "Critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, and analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action." A powerful concept, just a little hard to remember at any one point in time. While I like the definition, it's not one I can rattle off during a discussion with friends. I'm a big fan of 6-word stories. It's a great exercise to get people to think concisely. In search of a definition of critical thinking, I decided that perhaps the long-winded academic definitions needed to be compressed. My definition, heavily influenced by Paul Gibbons' book, Change Myths, using the idea of the 6-ish word story, can boil the definition down to thinking, weighing logic, intuition, authority, and research. Critical thinking provides a framework to have the critical debates that coaching and transformation requires. Critical thinking is not something you're born with. Rather, it's something that can be learned and nurtured. All of us need to become better thinkers to be better consultants, mentors, and people. Next, we'll consider the attributes of critical thinking. Keis Kostaqi, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Nice to be here again, Tom. Thank you.
Welcome back. Your new column. What's it titled again?
Facilitation to Transformation, the Scrum Master's role.
Excellent. We are looking forward to rolling this out and getting more and more out here. Link in the show notes, by the way, if you're listening for the first time, to Keis's first installment, and we'll continue building as we go forward. Keis, today, hierarchy. How does that impact the role of the Scrum Master?
In many ways. So I think this is a a twofold, right? It can be positive, but also it can be negative. And I would say it depends. So it,
Oh, are you
it
planning to be a
depends.
consultant?
Don't we all love that answer? In a negative way, it might be something stopping a Scrum Master from really helping the team. It might be a leader that the team has to respond to, that it's not giving the team the right framework to do what they need to do to actually improve and get better. So it could impact negatively in that way. And with every agile transformation, I guess a lot of the roles get impacted from your traditional organizational hierarchy, because we're trying to build cross-functional, self-organized, and self-managed teams. So that is one of the things that when you go through a transformation, that hierarchy is impacted negatively, and people might not feel good about that. Positively, though, if you do have a leader, and I'm going to use the term agile leader, if you have an agile leader who's actually helping you and promoting and empowering you as a team member to always continuously improve and listening to your issues and asking you open-ended questions to make you reach a conclusion, I think that's beneficial. And as leaders, we should always strive to help our team get better, because at the end of the day, if they do get better and if they do improve, then we're improving, and our overall department is improving, and our value that we're delivering to our customers, to our clients, to our stakeholders, that will be bigger. The value will be bigger, and we'll get more feedback, and then we'll continuously improve.
There's this concept called power distance. And power distance is, defined as, how people react to differentials in power. So if you absolutely respect, you have a hierarchy, and there are some cultures where, the higher up in the hierarchy, the more your word is probably inviolate. So you make decisions and pass them down. People can't really challenge them. So that has a high power distance. People tolerate this. There are cultures that do that. There are other cultures where, like the Swedes actually have, as a country, have the lowest power distance rating of anything. So anything that gets passed down probably tends to get challenged quite often, and that's accepted.
Yep.
When there's high power distance in teams, and teams really just have to take what comes down and don't feel they have the necessity or the ability to challenge it. How does that affect transformation?
It affects it. You can't move forward. You're stuck in a paralysis. You're stuck doing the same things over and over again. And you're going from actually being agile and trying to improve and all of that to just going through the motions. And that's one of the things that I think the Scrum Master is really pivotal in this scenario, because they need to work with that leadership person or people or group to make them understand the risks of actually not letting the teams move forward. What is the risk that they're getting? And to be honest with you, I'm the person that thinks of what would this person do, or what would I do if I would be in somebody's shoes, right? So we always think about order or specific rules that have to be followed. And when you have big corporations, there's specific rules that you have to follow. And I understand that, but at the same time, I think as a leader, I know so much, right? I know from my experience, I know what I've seen, I know what I've done, but I don't know everything. So I want people to challenge me so I can learn from them. I think that challenging each other, not in a negative way, but trying to understand where we're coming from and throwing those ideas off of each other can actually benefit both sides. And maybe we can discover something that we didn't before just because we were afraid to challenge that higher up person. So I would welcome those. I think we should welcome those as leaders, and see what's out there. What are the different opinions? Because that's why we've hired those different individuals. That's why we hire different talent, so we can get that different perspective and we can be competitive in the market and we can move forward. So I would say the Scrum Master, it's crucial in having these conversations and facilitating those conversations, and having the team feel comfortable sharing those ideas or those issues with leadership.
What keeps Scrum Masters from being able to have that kind of a conversation?
See, there are two ways you can be a Scrum Master, right? You can be a consultant, where you're coming from an outside company or vendor and you're helping through a transformation, or you're just keeping the lights on and helping teams continue with the framework that they already adapted. Or you can be hired within that company as an internal Scrum Master. And I think that makes things a little bit difficult, especially when you're internal, because you cannot, you're trying to talk about what does the team want, right? You're trying to voice their concerns. But if that top down, whomever that person at the top is, shuts you down, I feel like as human beings, we're employed somewhere. We're trying to be as respectful as possible to leadership and hierarchy. So that's where things get tricky. How do you react where you're an internal employee and you can push so far, but after that, what are the ramifications of that? I guess that's what people are concerned about. And I think it's a real concern.
It is a real concern. And the whole idea of privilege, and I know some people get excited when they hear the word privilege, but you're an internal Scrum Master. I'm an external coach. I do think that there are times when, as an external person, I have more privilege. Yep. I can take bigger risks than someone inside can. And I know we're supposed to speak truth to power. Yep. I've been told that by lots of people. Yeah, I think that's a lot harder if the speak truth to power means that your family doesn't get a paycheck because of that. Or here in the States, you don't get a paycheck and you get thrown out of having medical coverage, which is its own degree. To wrap this conversation up, and I think that's excellent information for both new and seasoned Scrum Masters that you've been able to provide. What piece of advice would you give someone who was facing that kind of I've got to help either distance my teams from the hierarchy, or I need to have hard conversations?
I think for me, and again, this is just my personality, I'm a very outspoken person, and I feel that as human beings, we can't hide who we are. And if we try to hide it, at some point it's going to come out. So for me, try to be truthful to who you are as an individual, to what you believe in, to what you think it will work, to what you think it won't. And as a Scrum Master, we have to be as much as possible help our teams and protect our teams. So I would say, try to have that difficult conversation. Go to that leader or go to somebody in that company or organization you work for and with, and try to find a champion. I think that's where I would start with. Try to find a champion that can help you voice those concerns. Maybe they have good relationship with other leaders, and they can help you actually, try to talk through those issues that the teams are having and make the others understand those as well. Having hard conversations is difficult for everybody. And but if you don't talk about it, it will come a point that those issues and those concerns might actually cause something for the company or for the organization that it's not wanted, and we might be at a position that we don't want to be. So I would say, you know what, be who you are, believe in yourself and believe in what you're trying to achieve, have those hard conversations. And then after that, if it doesn't work out, if you're unable to do something, at least you went with your gut and you went with what you believed in. and you helped voice your team's concerns, because that's what it's all about.
Keis Kostaqi, thank you again for spending time and wonderful advice to the software process and measurement cast community.
Thank you so much, Sean.
In Reread Saturday News, we are nearly at the conclusion of Team Topologies, organizing business and technology teams for fast flow. Over the next few days, we'll post a poll to get the selection process moving for our next Reread book. Chapter 8 of Team Topologies is titled Evolve Team Structures with Organization Sensing. I was struck by two important and related concepts during this read. They both are encompassed in the quote, "The most important thing is not the shape of the organization itself, but the rules and heuristics used to adapt and change the organization as new challenges arise." Link in the show notes to this week's installment of our reread and the past 9. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 760, we will feature an interview with Jonathan Hensley, founder and CEO at Emerge. Jonathan and I talked about digital transformations and engagement. The core boils down to alignment. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?